Welcome back to the Freak Show. I'm Finley, and today we're gonna watch Growing Up Gen Z. This is a video that was recommended to me, and as a Gen Z girl, I think this will probably be way too relatable. So let's dive right in.
Gen Z is the first generation in the modern era to experience so many different things. Sure, we didn't experience classic 80s arcades or the Great Depression, but we got something even better. And they're called Geek Bar. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video because I do post every Saturday. Being Gen Z is terrible. Okay,
Yeah,
that's a bit
it's
of an
ass.
over-exaggeration. Now, trust
It's
me, I know that
ass.
generations complaining about themselves and the circumstances they're brought up in is absolutely nothing new. This is something that's been going on forever. I know that even back in 1938, there was a couple 20-year-olds complaining that they didn't want to go to their paper delivery job. Well, good news, buddy, you're being deployed to Germany. I was born in 2004, which makes me the first generation to grow up with full internet access. It does most definitely come with its perks
I'm in
like YouTube,
2007.
Instagram, TikTok, Grind. With this little brick that has a screen, I can get almost any information I've ever wanted. I can get cooking recipes. I could also find super irresponsible medical advice. I can even find singles within my area. Unfortunately, though, we're also the first generation to develop a phone addiction. I spend way too much time on my phone,
Clock
and I
it.
am aware of that fact. I purposely do my best to stay away from the screen time stats because every time I've ever
Oh god, yeah, no, mine looks like that. Mine looks like that on God. Like, yeah, 11 or 12 hours a day. Fuck. Fuck my youngest life.
seen it in the past, I am immediately ashamed of myself. When I see that I have 2 to 3
Same
hours a
twin.
day on Instagram, it is like the
Same
worst
twin.
post-nut clarity of my life. It's because of short-form content platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels that I think most
Yeah.
people can't hold their attention to anything for longer than 3 nanoseconds. See, but even when it's short form, there needs to be a bunch of different things going on at once, like colorful subtitles or some sort of Roblox obby gameplay.
Honestly, okay. So, like, as a mom, I feel like other generations, like older generations, are so much more worried about screen time. And it's not that I'm like not worried about screen time, but like Baby Clown and I do interactive screen time. Plus, he's like under 1. So it's not like he's not like that interested in them yet because he's like a baby. But I understand that they like shorten your attention spans and stuff. But I also think that like this is just the way the world's going. Like, you're going to need access to screens. Hi, Baby Clown. Yeah, I was talking about you. Yeah, you're going to need access to screens. That doesn't mean that I think you should just watch trash content all day, but like, I don't know, like things change. I think it could be worse, but like, I don't know.
It's just so convenient because when I'm bored, TikTok's right there. But it seems that almost everybody's attention span is so cooked that nobody can go 30 seconds without being stimulated. Every time I play a game with someone, during the quick 15-second intermission between matches, you're bound to hear somebody's TikTok blast in the microphone. I'm not gonna sit here and judge them because I
Okay, real though, like, if I die in Overwatch, I pick up my phone or I, like, click over to my, like, Discord, and I'm just like, "Okay, well, what's happening?" It's only a few seconds, but I guess it really is like an addiction. Fuck.
do the same thing. If we're already at that point, I don't even want to think about the little 8-year-old kids with iPads. They're gonna grow up picking at their skin like heroin addicts when their iPad dies. My brain is so cooked by the constant 5-second dopamine videos that I think it's really starting to warp what I find funny now. I should be getting to the age where I'm considering starting a family, you know, locking down a full-time job. Instead, I'm too busy analyzing this. Think back to
Real
what you've done.
twin. So, like, I feel like a lot of us in this generation have no clue what we're doing. Like, that's like tea, that's real. Like, it's just such a different atmosphere that we grew up in than like anybody else has. And like, so many of us have been presented with stories of success from people who have had like unconventional lives. And so instead of just like accepting the like 9 to 5 grind, a lot of us have like tried pursuing other routes. But yeah, it does lead to a lot of us just like having no fucking idea what we're doing.
Within the past 24 hours. Okay, that's enough time. If you're a little bit like me, there's a pretty big chance that you've spent at least a little bit of that time on social media. Maybe you spent that time talking to family. Maybe you sent a Russian car crash from Instagram Reels to your friend. Or maybe you spent the past 8 hours doom scrolling in your bed, procrastinating whatever you had to do. Social media can be a place where you can express yourself freely. You can be who you were truly meant to be and get tons of support for it. For the most part. Now, if my experience is similar to anyone else who was a part of Gen Z, it would be that we were the first generation to grow up with social media really playing a big part in our lives. And I mean, that's pretty cool. One of the perks is that we were almost never bored. There's always something on there to keep you entertained. Like, think of how lucky we are. People from the 1300s didn't have things like TikTok or Instagram or, Mr. Beast. No, when people were bored back then, they
like
had
vaccines.
The Black Plague.
Yeah.
Ooh. Now, listen, although I think it's a huge perk that we have such easy access to dopamine and stimulation, largely thanks to short form content like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, I think it comes with a little bit of a side effect of not being able to be without it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has had this problem before, because that's not true.
So, like...
But I sure have.
Like, okay, so something that my parents talk about that I could, like, never do as my parents are like millennial Gen X, and they talk about how like when they were younger, they were like they'd like go camping and shit. And like, what do you even do if you're camping? Like, you just walk around with trees? Like, I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. But I don't know if that's just, like, my bad attention span and my, like, brain rot. So, it's just really different. Yeah, it's just really different.
When I was in high school, I spent way too much time scrolling on TikTok or Instagram Reels, which I think made my attention span a little bit worse than it was before. My attention span was already fried to begin with, but you know what most definitely didn't help? Watching 30-second videos with gameplay and subtitles to keep me invested. Gen Z currently has the shortest attention span with around 8 seconds. That's similar to a fucking goldfish. How the hell are we as advanced as we are with cities and functioning societies, yet we're nearly getting beat out by these things? And with people continuing to get social media access at such a young age, I'm not really sure that this is something that's ever going to change in the future. If anything, it's just going to get 10 times worse. Sure, right now we may have the same attention span of a goldfish, but who knows, maybe 10 years from now we won't be any smarter than a bacteria. For as long as I can remember, I've always had trouble focusing on things. It could be school, it could be at work, or even YouTube. I tend to get distracted really easily. Sometimes it feels like my brain just needs to be doing 5 different things all at the same time, multitasking things that shouldn't be done together. Yet at the same time, I struggle to even wake up and make my bed some mornings.
Okay, look, for a long time, I was told that like my ability to multitask was like good, and that it was like, I don't know, like women are like that. Just to later find out that I have fucking ADHD and I'm not normal. Yeah. So if you're like this, go see somebody about it.
If any of these things relate to you, then there's a small chance that you might be just like me and have ADHD. I'm not a doctor, please don't take my advice. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, often shortened to ADHD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by executive dysfunction and occasioning symptoms of inattention, hyperactivity. Wow, that is a lot of words. There are a bunch of different types of symptoms, and it kind of varies per person. One thing that most people tend to share, though, is the inattention aspect. Some people may always feel like they're under a lot of pressure and get really stressed out easily. Some people may talk excessively, while some others don't talk at all. And like mentioned earlier, other people may get distracted really easily, like me. Now, when most people think ADHD, the first thing that comes to mind is probably a super obnoxious kid who talks a lot, gets distracted easily, and is often very, very disorganized. That's exactly how I was. For as long as I can remember, I've always felt like my brain can never just turn off for a bit and relax. I always need some sort of mental stimulation. An example of this could be me fidgeting with whatever is around me. It could be something as little as fidgeting with an eraser or to literal garbage on my desk, to even playing with my thumbs. Or when I'm eating food, I need some sort of interaction with something, whether that be me talking to whoever I'm with at the time or just simply watching YouTube, which I understand isn't just exclusive to me. Like, bro, who eats without YouTube in this day and age? Older generations weren't addicted to their phones.
So growing up, we used to eat at the table because I live at home. Used to, like, growing up, we used to, like, eat at the table, like the dinner table. Now we eat on the couch while watching Netflix. That's like, does anybody actually eat at the dinner table anymore? Tell me in the comments. But like, do any of you guys actually sit down like across from each other and just like, I don't know, like stare at each other while you eat? Like, is that even real anymore? Do people really do that?
There was literally nothing to do back then. Nah, bro, they had cigarettes. If you take a look at this chart, cigarette users have been dropping like flies over the past few decades.
Oh shit, that was their fidget spinner.
Despawning, but also because people don't want to pick it up. They see the damaging effects that it causes. So I mean, that's at least one good thing that Gen Z avoided. I don't really think, oh fuck. And then vaping came along. Now I'm not gonna sit here and act all high and mighty and pretend like when I was a teenager I would never do it, because that would be lying. And lying is wrong. But I'm now in an age where I've come to realize that maybe this isn't the greatest idea for our health. Groundbreaking statement, I know. I mean, come on, think of it. These things haven't even been around long enough to see the long-term effects on what it does. And y'all want to keep doing it? Man, for all we know, it could turn us into lizards in 10 years. You know what, man? I think I'm gonna pass on it. I'm cool. Except for at a party. It doesn't really help that these little devices are just so easily accessible. At least with like a pack of Newports, you can smell them from a mile away. But then you can go through an entire geek bar and smell like you just brushed your teeth. Also, did those anti-smoking PSAs not scare you as a kid? It's the old lady with a hole in her throat.
Oh fuck, I remember that. Yeah.
In the age of 16. Yo, what the fuck?
I fucking remember that shit.
Happen to me. Like I mentioned earlier, Gen Z's circumstances are much different from what other people had to experience in the past. I'm not gonna say that we had it worse than anybody because, I mean, at least we have entertainment. Genuinely, what was there to do back then but read books? You could gather around the radio and listen to the weekly show. Ooh. You could reread Huckleberry Finn for the 17th time. I don't know how on earth they survived without cleaning videos.
I don't know how they survived either.
Things weren't perfect for us either. For starters, the entire planet shut down. And, I mean, that kind of put a downer on everything. But that's no worries, because thanks to the strong and responsible leadership of our governments, everything is fixed. And I'm still on track to move out by the time I'm 21 at the latest and have my own house, right? Right?
Wrong.
Hey, why is everybody so silent? And why is the average cost of a home now $300,000?
Bro, okay. So, like, I don't know if you guys can tell because of how I talk, but like where I'm from, I don't know when I'll be able to move out. Like minimum rent for like a 1-bedroom apartment is at least like $2,500. Baby clown, what's up? At least, like, and buying a house, fucking forget about it. Over $1 million. Over $1 million. Fucking forget about it. So people are like, oh, like, why do you still have to listen to your parents? Why do you still live at home? Bro, it's fucking expensive. Why do you think I still live at home? Like, what the fuck?
See, after that little mishap occurred, prices decided to skyrocket across the planet. Now, it's not just typical expensive things like houses or cars that got more pricey. It's literally everything under the sun. Take a look at a Walmart ad from 2019 and compare it with this year, 2025. What the hell am I looking at? And these are the prices that we're gonna have to continue paying for the rest of our lives? Yeah, man, honestly, we're cooked. Don't be surprised if in 3 years you see me at the red light district trying to get money for milk. Oh my god, we went to high school together. Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah. You still got that 2-for-1 special? Yeah. Anyways, my point is that all this started happening right as Gen Z is about to enter their adulthoods. How convenient is
Clock
that?
it.
Right
Yeah,
as we're
clock it.
reaching the age where we can finally establish our own independence. You're telling me now is the time to have a fucking recession? We had almost 100 years to do this. A century. And you're telling me now,
We
by
are
the current
fucking
age that
cooked.
I am right now, my grandparents would have already had a family with their own house, and I'm sitting here in my room watching Skibbity Toilet and animating stickmen. By this point, I've pretty much come to terms with the fact that I'm not owning a house anytime soon. And I know for a fact I'm not the only one who feels that way. I see tons of people online who are my age, and instead of buying a house or renting an apartment, they just buy a trailer and live in there. And there's some people—
Oh my, okay. So this is like, especially being from California, like this is a real thing. People are like, actually, because they can't buy houses, they're like refurbishing like school buses, they're buying trailers. Like it's that bad, Twin. Like, if you're wondering if it's that bad yet, like it is that bad. Yeah, it is that bad.
People who even buy ambulances or school buses and then renovate it themselves. At this point, you can catch me living in a tent on the street. I may smell like a Walmart bathroom, but hey, at least I won't be paying rent of any kind. I'll make one of those little tent fortresses that you can see in some homeless encampments. It'll be pretty cool. I don't think it really helps either that Gen Z is the generation that will own almost nothing. With prices going up left and right, people don't have money just to throw around on shit they don't need, which is where
I don't even have like a car. Like I don't have a car. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to buy a house. Like I am still paying on my cell phone. So like I don't even really own that yet. So like he's not wrong.
Where I introduce you to buy now, pay later. You know, instead of buying something that's $100, you can just pay $20 for the next 5 months. Now that seems pretty reasonable for things like an iPhone or a game console. But as of recently, DoorDash has made a partnership with Klarna, one of those buy now, pay later services. Instead of paying $15 for your Chipotle outright, you can just do 3-month payments of $5. Now listen, by no means am I a financial advisor or an economist of any sorts, but this is dumb. As of late, I've been thinking about how the year 2020 was already 5 years ago.
If you have to finance your Chipotle, you probably shouldn't be getting Chipotle. Just saying.
During this time, I was an awkward 15-year-old who was nervous but excited to experience just a normal time in high school. I knew one thing for certain. I was not going to let anybody ruin this experience for me. Not one single thing.
On Monday in China, it suffered its highest number of deaths in one day. 103 people.
And then the entire planet shut down. That was fun. Okay, now, obviously 2020 didn't go as planned. It didn't matter if you were a 15-year-old in the United States or a 45-year-old in Paris. Everybody was affected by this. The only ones who are probably safe are those random remote jungle tribes in the middle of the ocean. Now, for those of you who are too young to experience what happened, or if this video is being played in a museum 100 years from now, either way, allow me to explain what exactly happened and how 2020 lockdown came to be. Now, everything started off normal. Spring break had literally just finished for my high school, and nothing seemed too out of the ordinary. I mean,
I just
during the
finished
break,
spring break,
there
I think,
had
in
been
middle
talks
school,
of a new virus
like
that was
8th grade.
originating out of China, but nothing was gonna come out of it, right? Besides, China is across the world, so we had nothing to worry about. Until days passed, and we saw more and more reports of people getting sick with this new mystery virus. It spread from China to Europe to North America within days, and before I knew it, we were getting a 2-week break from school. I'm pretty sure everybody was hyped at the fact that we had to do nothing for 2 weeks.
I remember
when
being
I heard
excited
there was
at
going to be no
first.
school for the next 2 weeks, I immediately hopped my little ass on Fortnite and played it for like the next 14 hours. When I have my own children, I'm going to describe lockdown as truly one of the hardest times of my life, where I was depleted of social interactions and I was the most alone I'd ever felt in my life. It was just so hard, knowing damn well that I was doing nothing but watching TikTok, playing Fortnite for 13 hours a day, gooning and eating chips. Now yes, boo-hoo, I couldn't hang out with people. So what? I was an awkward teenager who had absolutely zero social skills. So like, bro, for me, this was the best possible outcome that could have occurred.
It was not that bad
remember
at
some days
first,
I
and then
would
it got
wake up
worse.
at 2 p.m. and immediately start scrolling on TikTok for hours on end, knowing damn well I hadn't showered in the past 3 days. It was bad, bro. I'm telling you, there were some stinky dudes. I'd be waking up so late that the only thing I would eat is dinner. I was definitely walking around my house emanating green aura with flies. It was bad. It was during this 2-week break that eventually all unnecessary activities are to be put on hold, and measures like social distancing and quarantines were put in place. Face masks became mandatory in places all over the world. I'd go to Walmart and everybody would be masked up. There were designated spots where you could and couldn't stand. Hand sanitizer is in every possible location.
6 feet away.
And the only thing that was hard to find was toilet paper. People were stocking up on toilet paper.
Oh my god. I fucking remember that. That was absolutely diabolical. People were going and they were buying like 10 fucking rolls of toilet paper at a time. It was crazy, bro.
Day was going to be the apocalypse. Finding toilet paper at the time was like finding a rare Pokemon card just sitting on the ground. You would have better luck winning the lottery than finding 3 rolls of Charmin Ultra Soft. There were a couple days in my household where we had no toilet paper, and I'm telling you, if we ran out of paper towel, bro, I would have started using my old Angry Birds t-shirts from the 2nd grade. Before we knew it, these 2 weeks of no school slowly turned into there are just going to be no classes for the foreseeable future. All future classes will instead be held online within video call platforms like Zoom and Google Classrooms. All right, I'm just gonna get one thing out of the way. I don't think I once at all showed up to any of these classes on time, if I even bothered to show up in the first place. You're telling me that I had to wake up at 8 a.m. after staying up nearly all night playing games and shooting blanks on TikTok to attend a 30-minute Zoom call that the teacher doesn't even want to be in? Yeah,
let's be for real.
I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. I'm pretty sure that a good 50% of you watching this video right now did the exact same thing. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that I was failing school pretty bad. I've never been the best in school to begin with, but this was bad for my standards. Shortly after, though, our school board came out and said that anything done after the beginning of the lockdown would not count towards our final grade. Yeah, I suppose you could say that me not showing up to online class was truly an alpha power move, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't even matter in the first place. You gotta think smarter, my friends, not harder. Time is money. And I would spend that time sleeping. Also, wearing a mask was ass. I'm not here to argue whether you think masks worked or they didn't work. I'm here to argue that they made me tired of smelling my hot ass breath. Bro, there were times where I'd have to wake up super early to go out somewhere and I'd wear a mask and I had no time to brush my teeth. So for the next hour, I'd just be sitting there smelling my morning stank the entire time I was out of the house.
Okay, well, that's gross, but that's not what I hated about it. What I hated is like how warm your breath is, and then you'd like just keep breathing on yourself. I don't know. It was gross.
See, but when you tried to put a breath mint in your mouth to maybe neutralize the stink, it would just redirect your breath directly into your eyeballs. So if you weren't already in tears about how rancid your morning breath was, you would definitely be crying about the amount of menthol that your eyes are being exposed to. Now listen, at first, lockdown was amazing. School was no longer going, many people didn't have to go to work anymore, and because everybody was too scared to leave the house, food delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats became a super popular option. Legitimately, all I was doing was eating delivered McDonald's and playing video games all day long. And obviously, with very little physical activity, I started to get a wee bit rotund. My circumference was getting larger by the week, and it's because of this that I started to feel the first few negatives of lockdown. Trust me, sitting around on my ass all day was fun for a few weeks, but after around the 2-month mark, you really start to realize what's going on. In my mind, I started to think that maybe this isn't all it's cracked up to be, and you start to miss the simple things, like just going for a bike ride with your friends, or just going to the movies, simple things. I think once summer break of 2020 rolled around is when we started to notice the actual effects of lockdown. For example, the class of 2020 wasn't able to get an official graduation. Instead, most schools opted out for a Zoom call, and that's it. I was lucky enough to get an actual graduation. You know how pissed I would be if I went through 12 years of bullshit just to be sitting there on a Zoom call? I know that was awkward as hell too. They were just sitting at their screen like, Pokemon Stickman, congratulations on your graduation. Are you fucking kidding me? Tons of people were also getting laid off of their jobs due to not being able to keep up with the rapidly changing environment. Even my dad had to work from home at one point, and our apartment was so small that he had absolutely nowhere to set up his workstation. So he had to put it in my room, and I would regularly wake up at like 6 a.m. to hear my dad on a work meeting or tip-tapping away at his keyboard. I was having so little real-life social interactions with people that I would dream that I was hanging out with my friend, only for it to be shattered by hearing. As summer break went on, I was really starting to feel bad. I missed being able to see my friends and even my family because of this entire lockdown. It wasn't just as simple as hopping on Fortnite and playing games for hours a day because I was starting to really get bored of it. I got so bored of playing Fortnite that I camo grinded both different types of skins on Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. And also, you gotta keep in mind that I was starting to...
For me, it wasn't Fortnite, it was Overwatch. And now I barely touch it. Yeah, now I barely touch it. All of COVID, it was Overwatch. And now, not like with friends, yes, but like otherwise, like no.
Get fat as hell during this point. That DoorDash and sweet chili Doritos were really starting to take a toll on me, both physically and mentally. Sure, I could go online and make friends, play games, but I was missing that face-to-face with people. And to put it bluntly, this is where I started getting depressed. And I know for a fact I wasn't the only one who felt this way because I've talked to so many people my age and they felt the same way. So what I used to do is I would go on walks late at night. The apartment that me and my family lived in at the time was on the basement floor, so my window would lead straight to the grass near the sidewalk. So on those nights when it was like 2 a.m. and I just couldn't sleep, I would get out of my bed, hop out the window, and just go for a walk around the neighborhood without a mask or nothing. I would just take in the night air and finally feel freedom for the first time in quite a while. What
I don't live in a nice enough place to do this.
To the skate park, and I would just sit there alone with my thoughts and take everything in. I didn't have to worry about no social distancing or having to use hand sanitizer every 45 seconds. At these times where I would just walk around the neighborhood, I would feel like it was just me being able to get a break from all the chaos that was going on within the world. It was such a good refresh for me mentally just to be able to walk around and just unwind, relax. And I know for a fact that me and so many other people who are in my generation didn't have a normal time to grow up and be teenagers. And it's just a fact that we did miss out on certain things. And that sucks. Like,
literally, so COVID, like, actually destroyed what could have been a really good gymnastics career for me. But then in like the peak ages and like the peak times that I could have been doing that, instead we were on forced lockdown. So I didn't get to do that. And then when I came back to it after so much time off, I got injured. So like COVID literally fucked my life up. Like, for real. Like, it was diabolical. It was so bad.
Really bad, but at the same time, I'm super happy that I got to have such a unique experience. Obviously, after about a year or so, things started to settle down. Mandates were lifted, people were able to go back to school, go back to their jobs, and it was really awesome being able to go outside and interact and just live life again. It's crazy to think that this wasn't like 2 years ago. This was 5 years ago. This was half a decade. I mean, come on, the worst day in 2016 felt like it was nothing but a nice spring day and you were just frolicking through the flowers. You didn't have to worry about having a job, paying taxes, or bills. The only thing on your mind was that fidget spinners were sold out of almost every store.
Bro,
honestly,
I
it would not surprise me if
love
some of the people watching this video
spinners.
were born after 2016. Like, bro, how are you gonna be born after peak humanity? We as a society have seriously got to do some type of scientific research on why this year is considered so great. I know for a fact that some of you in the comments are going to be saying, well, actually, nostalgia bias is a very real thing. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Just let us have this one thing, please. In classic 2016 fashion, for this video, I have a specially made channel intro.
Oh, boy.
For starters,
is
the
very,
internet
like,
was completely different
2016
during
of
this
him.
time. TikTok wasn't a thing, which I know now is something that I don't think we as a society would be able to handle. Short form content just wasn't really as popular as it is today. If you needed to get a fix of quick, short content, you were only given two options, Musical.ly and Vine. Now, Vine was an app where you could post these short little 6-second skits, and you could grow an audience with that. And there were actually some pretty popular Vine creators. In fact, many YouTubers who you may be familiar with today got their start on this platform, like Drew Gooden, Danny Gonzalez, Lele Pons, David Dobrik, the Paul brothers.
My childhood.
Unfortunately, though, Vine did end up shutting down because it wasn't able to maintain proper monetization for its creators, and that isn't fun. That sucks. But hey, at least we still have Musical.ly. Let's see what type of content was popping on this platform. Yo, the audio is copyrighted. So,
yeah, like Belle Delphine
this,
and other lip syncing. With all the cringe faces,
Musical.ly consisted of awkward kids posting videos of them lip syncing to songs, and that's pretty much it. Either I'm super out of touch or I have dementia at the age of 20, but the only person who I remember blowing up off of this app is probably Jacob Sartorius, who you may recognize as the singer of the hit song Sweatshirt. I'm not being sarcastic or anything when I say this. This is legitimately one of the worst songs I've ever heard. During this time, smaller indie games were starting to get in the spotlight, and one game really took the internet by storm, and that was a little project by the name of Undertale. I absolutely love this game. I remember playing it for the first time and falling in love with it within the first few minutes. The music, the simple graphics, everything. It's also just so nostalgic for me. And actually, here's a fun fact. One of my first ever YouTube videos was a deep dive on Undertale.
Wait.
A game that still makes my heart...
Chat, should I play Undertale? I'm pretty sure I own it, but I've never played it. Yeah, let me know if that's something that I should, like, play. I don't think it's a very long game, right? Yeah, I don't think it's a very long game.
Heartwarm almost 6 years later. You know, after months.
I don't think it's even remotely possible to mention 2016 without talking about the YouTube atmosphere during this time. You were able to say and do things during this time that you just wouldn't be able to get away with today, and I think a prime example of YouTube throughout this period is iDubbbz. Now, regardless of what you think of him today, his old series were prime. He had things like Bad Unboxing, Content Cop, Kickstarter crap. You also had people like Filthy Frank who was doing... What the fuck was he doing at this time? But if you take a look at the commentary side of YouTube, you had a creator named Leafy is Here, who is notorious for being one of YouTube's biggest bullies while playing Counter-Strike Surf. When I think 2016 commentary YouTube, the first thing that comes to mind is Leafy. He would start every video off with that intro and then immediately go, "What's up guys, Leafy here." All the while he was beefing with Keemstar. And now, believe it or not, there was a point where Keemstar wasn't a grumpy old disgruntled man. Okay, that's a bit of a lie. He's always been a little sour.
I was gonna say, he's kind of always been like that.
He actually did something instead of just posting on Twitter. He used to run a show called Drama Alert. As embarrassing as this next thing is, I feel like I still need to share it. There was a point in my life where my main source of news was Drama Alert. That's right, my main source of information was fucking Keller Keemstar. I may have not been the brightest cookie, however, I knew where I was getting my facts. The internet did also have some positive things going on, like fun little trends. For starters, you had the mannequin challenge, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You would just stand still in a certain position and someone would go around with a camera filming it. I mean, that's pretty cool, I guess. There was this one time, I was like in the 5th grade, and I showed up to class late, and I ended up distracting everyone who was doing the mannequin challenge, and for the rest of the day, everyone was kind of pissed off at me in class. That's pretty much all I have to say about the mannequin challenge. There was another item that was not only seen all over the internet, but also in real life. And that was the fidget spinner. These little crappy pieces of plastic were all over the internet that even Mr. Beast himself made a video about them at one point. I would be on YouTube and I would see creators talking about fidget spinners, but then I would go to school and see my classmates with them too. It was almost like a crossover episode. For those little youngins who may not be able to comprehend the advanced mechanics of a fidget spinner, they were these little triangle-shaped toys that you would spin, and that's pretty much about it. Tons of people said that these things were meant to help people who struggle with ADHD, and honestly, I think the people who believe this must have gotten their degree at the University of Bullshit, because this is bull. All my life, I've struggled with ADHD and the ability to focus. I've always fidgeted with things. Fidget spinners never once helped me. Twiddling my thumbs in a circle for 3 hours was more beneficial than holding a fidget spinner for 30 seconds. They were nothing more than a cheap $15 piece of crap that parents would buy for their kids.
It's just like a
it's almost
stim
tradition that
toy.
every single generation of children have a toy that everybody needs to get their hands on and are forgotten within 6 months. You may be wondering, why are you so hostile towards the fidget spinner? It's because my parents never bought me one. So yes, my opinion is solely based on jealousy. To be fair, they weren't cheap at the time. Some of them were selling on eBay for hundreds of dollars. It's crazy to me that some stores had the audacity to sell fidget spinners for like $20, knowing damn well they were made by a little Chinese 8-year-old who are getting paid an annual salary of $1.12. Since we're already on the topic of trash toys, does anybody remember these things? These stupid fucking hoverboards? You know, the ones that costed hundreds of dollars?
Yeah.
Even though my allowance was only about
one.
$4 a month, I could see right through these that they are the biggest waste of money ever. I don't know
Yeah,
if
no,
the
this
people
was
who
cheap as
owned
shit.
these were not only coping with the fact that they wasted hundreds of dollars on what was essentially just trash, but maybe they were slowly coming to terms with the fact that these were the most uncool things ever. On my life, I have never once been in public and saw somebody using these hoverboards and thought to myself, damn,
cool.
if only I had that amount of aura. I just wish I was as cool as he was. No, I thought, why doesn't this fucking loser just walk? Anytime I've seen somebody using them in public, I would roll my eyes. How are you not only gonna have zero drip and be wearing a man bun, but on top of that, you're using a hoverboard? Big waste of money, garbage, trash. Moving on to something that doesn't.
Oh my god, man buns. When I was a kid, I feel like they were like everywhere. Like everybody had them.
Make me want to rip my own hair out, the bottle flip challenge. Everybody across the internet was participating in the bottle flip challenge. It was just simple, harmless fun. In fact, every now and then when I'm sipping on a plastic bottle and I see a little bit left, I'll decide to give it a little flip. 90% of the time it never lands because I was always terrible at it, but it does give a little bit of nostalgia and warmth to my heart. During this year, political tensions were at an all-time high due to the presidential election, and me being a kid, I knew absolutely nothing about politics. All I was paying attention to was Pokemon Go. Almost everywhere you went in public, there was some person playing Pokemon Go on their phone.
That was my shit. Oh my god.
And in fact, it became so popular that it inevitably was mentioned in a political environment, and that completely ruined any interest that I had.
Pokemon go to the polls.
If only there was something that us young people could happily enjoy to ourselves. Something so artistic and intricate that the feeble minds of the elderly just simply couldn't understand. Like a TV show, a video game, or even some type of music. The XXL 2016 freestyle is genuinely a work of art. Musically, it's nothing too groundbreaking, but I think it just captures such a perfect moment in time where we didn't have to worry about anything. Gen Z consists of people who are born between the years 1995 and 2012. Me personally, I was born in 2004, which I guess would be the second half of Gen Z, and I'm 20 years old already. I'm not sure it takes somebody with a PhD in human sciences to figure out that if you're Gen Z, bro, it's time to admit the hard truth. We are unk status. I could care less if you're 15 years old or if you're 30. We as Gen Z are in this together. So if
Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not an unk. Excuse me. That's diabolical. I'm 19. That's
if I'm feeling bad about being old, then you should too. You know what type of mentality that is that I have? The unk mentality. Maybe it's just because I'm salty of the things that I would say when I was younger. I remember back when I was in elementary school, I would constantly say, I wish I was older. But you know, now that I'm out of school, I'm a grown man with hair on my balls. I'm slowly starting to realize that's possibly one of the dumbest things I've ever said. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't really have much to worry about. All I would need to do was go to school, come home, watch cartoons, and go to sleep. But now that I'm older, I gotta worry about taxes, health insurance, groceries, paying bills, the government coming to my house to look for my outstanding warrant. Bro, what the hell? Basically, what I'm trying to say is that you had nothing to worry about when you were a kid.
Yeah,
and now that I'm thinking back
kid.
to all the things that I used to complain about when I was younger, bro, I was just complaining about a whole lot of nothing. Aw, why are you crying? You don't want to go to school? Well, don't worry, because in 10 years, you gotta pay $8,000 worth of taxes to the IRS. best. When I was younger, I thought being a grown-up was the best possible thing on planet Earth. I thought you didn't have to worry about anything else. No more being told what to do. You had the freedom to do whatever you wanted. So imagine my disappointment when I reach adulthood and I find out that it's illegal to drink 6 beers and then go for a joyride. In fact, there's a lot of things that I wish I knew about adulthood when I was younger.
Okay, so T, they like sell you. They like sell you on adulthood. They're like, oh, like it's like so cool. You're gonna be able to like do whatever you want and like all of this shit. And then you become an adult and it's all fake. Yeah, it's not real. Being an adult's fucking chopped and I hate it.
I don't know, you'd think that the school system would at least try to teach you what being an adult is like, considering you're going there to learn. But no, instead of leaving
they don't
school
prepare you at
knowing
all.
actual things that will help me in my day-to-day life for the next 60 years, I instead left knowing how many apples Susie has after giving some to Mike. Officer, I'm not allowed to speed in a school zone? Allow me to tell you about the Pythagorean theorem. I don't know how to change a tire whatsoever, but hey, you know, I'm pretty good at geometry dash. The older up in age I start to get, the more I'm kind of starting to realize that 90% of adults have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Like, if you meet somebody who is freshly 18, right, and they're talking about all these different adult things, essentially just acting older than they are, I want you guys to know there's a big chance that it's a load of hooey. When I sit down and think back to when I was 18 years old, the first thing that comes to mind is how much I've changed. I mean, I feel like a completely different person. For example, I created this YouTube channel literally 3 days after my 18th birthday, and I was fresh out of high school, and the type of content that I was making was very 18-year-old coded, let's say.
Okay, now I just want to say, I am not
Wait, does that mean I'm gonna look back on this content in a few years and cringe? Because I'm not very much older than that. Like, am I gonna be embarrassed? Ooh, oof. Am I gonna think that I'm like super chopped? Like,
the biggest sucker or partaker in the big ol' marriage.
Okay, let's move on. That was terrible. And now that I'm 20 years old, I'm being way more productive. I'm watching all of Skibbity Toilet for 5 hours. Isn't that great? I mean, for the first like 6-7 years of your adulthood, you're not even really a functioning member of society yet. You're still figuring out how to do all these new things. I mean, think of it. You got stuff like moving out for the first time, getting your first car, man, even finding a job. Now, I know this next statement is definitely gonna sound like I'm making a big excuse for a lot of Gen Z, which it is, but the majority of us were locked inside for like 3 years.
No, we have valid
now, no matter where you
excuses.
are within the age spectrum, whether you're 70 years old or 10 years old, you got to admit that this must have some type of detriment, right? For a couple years, we were literally not allowed to go outside. It's still crazy to wrap my head around the fact that quarantine wasn't 2 or 3 years ago. This was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was 5 years ago.
It's crazy to think that we're closer to 2030 than we are to the very first case of said illness that caused the lockdown. And it's because of that a lot of us didn't have the same experiences that our parents or even some of your older siblings may have. For example, a lot of Gen Z weren't able to have jobs when they were teenagers. And that's because they were locked inside their house. You were literally not allowed to work at a store. Now,
I've literally never had a job. Yeah, like I've literally never had a job. And because I've got baby clown, I don't even know when I'm going to get my first job or like what it's going to be or like what I'm going to do with my life really. It's stressful. I feel like it's a stress that other generations haven't had as much because they didn't have these specific set of circumstances.
Thankfully, I was lucky enough to be able to get my first job when I was 16, almost immediately after lockdown. I worked at a Marshall's for about 1.5 years as a cashier, and I met a crazy amount of people who were like 20, 22 years old, and that was their first job. Of course, though, when working that job, you also had to deal with your fair amount of old people. And I'm gonna be the one with big enough balls to say it because apparently nobody has said it enough. Why are old people such dicks to Gen Z? Like when I was working at this cashier cashier job, the amount of old people that I would encounter that would just belittle us was ridiculous. Old people are old people. They don't like any generation below them, or really anything for that matter. They hate millennials, they hate Gen X, but for some reason, they seem to really hate Gen Z. You have old people left and right telling Gen Z that we just simply don't work hard enough and that we'll have trouble being successful. Meanwhile, they were somehow able to afford an entire 5-bedroom house at the age of 21 by simply running a lemonade stand. And yes, I am gonna play the victim. Look at the price of a McDonald's burger from 1970 versus 2000.
Okay, this is something that I feel like does get talked about a lot, but I don't think that older people like really truly process it because they're like, oh yeah, well, my life was hard too. When, like, comparatively, respectfully, comparatively, your life was about 7 times easier if we're gonna look at like financial statistics. Like it is nothing even relatable. Like yeah, it's ass. Like we are absolutely cooked. Like I said, I don't own a car. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to move out. Like I don't think I'm ever gonna be a homeowner. It's like it really is that bad. And I think that they just don't quite get it.
25. Bro, I gotta ask Birdie to pay for my Chick-fil-A, and you think that I'm able to afford a house on my own? I like to cope and tell myself that maybe old people are simply just jealous of the things that we had. I mean, think of it. Gen Z growing up had all different types of technology. We had iPads, PlayStations. Now, what did old people have to entertain themselves with? Oh, 3 sticks and a copy of Huckleberry Finn? Bro, I ain't gonna lie, if I had to read this boring I'd be pissed off too. What's still crazy to me is that Gen Z had access to all of this different type of technology. It was so easily accessible, we were essentially just guinea pigs. I mean, I think back to my first ever electronic gaming system, and that was the DS. I remember I used to play Mario and Nintendogs on my DS all the time. Sometimes it brings a tear to my eye when I think about where my Nintendogs are today. I used to stay up past my bedtime and take care of my Nintendogs, and when my parents would walk in my room, I would put my DS under my pillow. Now, I like to think that this is a universally shared Gen Z experience. Until I was on TikTok a couple days ago, and someone made a video talking about this, and all the comments are Gen Alpha asking, "What's a DS?" Bro, I sat there looking at my phone screen like, I don't seem to be in the best mood, and that's because I'm not. I wish I truly would have taken my younger body for granted. And keep in mind, I'm only 20 years old, which in the grand scheme of things in my life really isn't anything at all. So then tell me, why the hell am I only 20 years old and I'm already starting to get back pain? Allow me to get a little bit vulnerable with you guys. Literally just yesterday, I was taking a shower and I dropped the soap. Whoa, not that type of vulnerable, chill out. And as I'm bending to pick up the soap, you know, I'm arching my back in a weird way, I feel a sudden pain in my back, which then causes me to slip and fall down inside of my shower. Now, this seems like something that would
When we need to do some stretches, we need to do some mobility exercises. You were too young for this.
usually happen to somebody who's 70 years old, right? Like an old person. You do hear stories all the time of old people falling down in the shower. But 20 years old? Are we serious? I'm not going to be 70 years old for another 50 years. I really wish that I could say this was a singular isolated incident, but it's not. In the past 2 years, I've fallen down in the shower probably 3 times. Now, I don't possibly know what could be causing my back pain. Maybe it's because I hunch over a computer screen looking like a Reddit mod all day. See, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because it does have quite a bit of positives, but I feel there are just as many negatives to it. For starters, I think it's really cool that with an app on your phone, you're able to go viral and blossom an entire career from that. For example, the Hawk Tua girl, she's doing pretty well. But then, with people seeing the potential in becoming successful online, you also have more and more people trying to become influencers. And these people are willing to do anything to get a little tiddlywink of attention attention from strangers online, a few little Reddit updates. You know, back in the olden days, when you would ask children what they wanted to be when they grew up, a lot of them would say that they wanted to be a scientist or a doctor, you know, something that helps
Now it's
improve society.
influencers.
Now
Everyone's
when
being
you ask,
influencer.
a lot of them say they want to be an influencer of some sorts. With this being the case, I've seen more and more people trying to go viral on YouTube and TikTok by just being annoying in public. I know that I'm most definitely gonna sound like an old man telling kids to get off his lawn, but I think that these prank videos coming from kids who are no older than 14 and they go into a Walmart or a Target and just act annoying is not funny. In
Yeah,
fact,
that's
I think
not
it's
it.
pretty fucking cringe to use the general public as your own little NPC for your prank video that's only gonna get comments from like-minded annoying teenagers. These
Also, okay, I don't know if this is gonna be like felt or not, but when it comes to like streaming, the men who stream or like the boys who stream where all they do or like their content or like their funny haha is just them screaming. Literally, like just them screaming, like at the camera. Like everything is screaming. They're mad, screaming. They're super happy, screaming. They think it's funny, screaming. I can't fucking stand that.
videos all come from people who look the exact same too. It's like their own little carbon copy of each other. Now, I really wish I could say it was just kids doing this type of content, but unfortunately, there are grown-ass dudes making content like this, doing arguably worse. Get this.
Yeah.
Back in December of 2024, a 27-year-old man went into a Walmart and filmed himself spraying bug killer on fruits as a prank. I refuse to
That's
believe that
crazy.
this guy with a clear mind decided it was a good idea not only to put the general public at risk by poisoning food, but then posting it himself on TikTok. Keep in mind, this is a grown man doing this. 27 years old is not young. At this point,
No,
you should
that's
start a
young.
family, you know, save up for a house, instead of acting like a fucking idiot on TikTok. The things that people will do for the littlest bit of internet attention will never cease to amaze me.
Like
I think
becoming
with
a
the amount of time
VTuber,
Gen Z has
imagine.
spent online, we've seen a lot more at a younger age than we probably should have seen. Like, we deadass might be the first generation that is almost fully desensitized to violence. When you're scrolling on social media, it's ridiculous how fast you can go from a video of a cute kitten enjoying the joys
Yeah.
of life to the most disturbing shock video you've
Then,
seen,
like,
all in the
fucking
matter
ice
of
raids
30
or
seconds.
something,
You
yeah.
know, there's a specific category of video that's gotten a lot easier to access with social media. I'm not really sure I can
Sus.
say it due to guidelines on YouTube, but just know that
Yeah,
it rhymes
sus.
with words like door, store, vol. These types of videos are everywhere on social media, and I've been seeing them since I was a relatively young age, and I wouldn't be surprised if you have too, whether it was voluntarily or against your own will.
Yeah.
In school, there was always that one weirdo dude who would approach people and just show you the most disturbing video you've ever seen.
The 4chan
I was convinced
guy,
that
yeah.
this kid was somehow connected to the CIA with the way that he was getting these videos that seemingly came straight out of a war zone. I would be sitting there at like 7 in the morning, and this kid would show me a video of some guy getting absolutely f***ed up, getting shot in the face, and then getting f***ed, and then bro, I woke up
Jesus fucking
45 minutes
Christ.
ago. This is the absolute last thing that I want to see right now. It is not normal that I've been shown so many of these videos throughout my lifetime that they just don't bother me. I have no idea what happened, but a couple months ago at the time of recording this video, for an entire day, Instagram Reels was showing nothing but these types of videos. I woke up on this fine morning, had a delicious breakfast, and decided to go on Instagram Reels, where I was promptly shown a video of a man getting shot. And each video just
shit.
kept getting worse and worse. Now, Meta would eventually come out and apologize and say that it was an algorithm malfunction, but that's even more concerning. Are you telling me there are people who voluntarily have this type of stuff as their algorithm? Yeah, no, at that point,
It's a
just lock these people
terrible
up. They're a
algorithm.
danger to our society. It's not just those kinds of videos that are more easily accessible to a younger generation. It's the other types too, like corn. Corn on the
Yeah,
cob, by the way.
corn.
From the moment I started using social media consistently in my early teens, I quickly began to notice just how many of these specific adult videos were on places like Instagram
Yeah,
or,
like
no,
OnlyFans
Instagram was
girls
about it. At least
advertising
until
on
Twitter was
Instagram.
bought out by
Yeah.
Elon. When I was like 13, I would constantly be scrolling on Instagram and I would see a meme page that I follow promote some girl's private profile enticing you to click the red chili pepper in her bio for the small price of $35.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm just trying to watch my dank memes sometimes I don't care about your profile. As annoying as it was, that seemed to be as far as it would ever go, though. You would simply ignore it or unfollow, whatever worked, and then go on with your day. However, once OF was introduced, things got a whole lot different.
It got so much
with your
worse.
day. However, once OF was introduced, things got a whole lot different. Once this website was introduced, these types of things were almost inescapable, and even today they still are. I bet you right now, if you started a fresh Twitter account, within 3 minutes you would see somebody promoting their page. When I'm reading a Twitter thread
That's
about
true. As
2000s
somebody
nostalgia, the last thing that
newly
I
on
want to see
Twitter.
is some girl promoting herself. And this is something that definitely could and has had a negative effect on some people who are in Gen Z, and it can even be a danger for Gen Alpha too. If they grow up seeing this type of stuff, they get an
Well, so it's also, especially, so like as a young girl in this space, like I can tell you that it's also like, it is a little enticing because you see all of these girls who do it and they make so much money. And like I said earlier, like I can't even imagine like being a homeowner or anything. But then these girls go on and they make enough money to like not only buy themselves a house, but like buy their parents a house and like buy all sorts of stuff. And you're just like, well, fuck, like could I do that? But the reality of it is that there's so many girls on those sites that don't make any money, and all you see are the ones who do.
unrealistic view of people.
Yeah,
Way
it's
too many
unrealistic.
times have I seen people on social media sexualizing a woman who's doing nothing more than like a makeup tutorial. And I think one of the issues that
That
social
too.
media has
You grew up
caused
very
is a sense of
sexualized
false
in
reality.
social
A lot of
media.
the shit that you see on here is so fake. When you see celebrities like Kylie Jenner posting selfies where she looks like the most gorgeous woman on earth, handcrafted by goddesses, do you genuinely think that she looks like this 100% of the time? Of
No,
course not.
she
You
looks
guys are
chopped
aware
sometimes,
Photoshop
too.
and face filters are a real thing, right? But young people may not know that, and that can be pretty damaging to your mental health. Long story short, yeah, social media definitely has some negative effects on Gen Z, which was kind of the point of this video.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I would spend a pretty big amount of time on the internet, which did come with some positives and some negatives. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a pretty big flex too.
Like, dude, I was the first generation of iPad kids.
Which, if anything at all, it just says something about my below average IQ. But honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, I was really young when I first discovered what the internet was. Like, I was aware of the internet's existence before I was even able to
You guys
fully
get
tie
Baby
my
Cloud in this
shoes.
video.
I don't like
He's
boasting
in
about
my
it
lap.
because it makes me not only sound like a douchebag, but also a degenerate. But for my age, I was pretty knowledgeable about the internet. But it wasn't for a while until I myself started going online. My parents, thank goodness, did their best to not let me browse online for too long by myself, or really at all. I had very limited access to what I was allowed to do on the family computer. And at the time, I was
Same.
really frustrated and angry that I wasn't allowed to browse freely on the internet for
Also
as long
same
as I
twin.
wanted. And for this point, I was around 8, 9, maybe 10 around here. So I was very limited with going on the computer. There were only certain sites I was allowed to go to, like YouTube, some game sites like Cool Math Games. Friv was another big one. So, you know, I really wasn't able
remember
to
Cool
do
Math.
much, which again, at the time was frustrating. But now that I'm all grown up, bro, I should have listened to them more. But eventually,
Yeah.
when I was 10 years old, I won. I got a tablet, which then gave me unlimited access to the internet. Any information I wanted to get, any video I wanted to watch, any game I felt like playing,
Yeah.
anything. It
I
was
remember the
literally
freedom of my
all
first
in
tablet.
my hands, at my fingertips, at the press of a button. All of this at the ripe age of 10.
Honestly, I'm
I
making
played a lot
it
of
sound
Angry
pretty
Birds.
overdramatic. It wasn't too bad. It was pretty cool, actually. One thing that I did when I first got unlimited internet access was I broadened the type of YouTubers that I would watch. So when I was younger, I used to only watch like Dan TDM, like Dennis Daily. Popular MMOs is another pretty big one, and I think he actually has been
Oh,
arrested.
yeah.
Family-friendly kitty shit. That's the type of stuff that I was watching. And that's really the only type of stuff I was allowed to watch, because whatever I watched would be blasted through either the TV speakers or from the computer speakers.
Same
And if
twin.
I were to watch a YouTuber and they said something inappropriate like poo
My family would clock it.
or even pee or fuck, fuck? Dude, my parents would immediately rush into the room and turn off whatever I was watching, on top of already taking whatever internet privilege I had for the week. This
get
could have easily been
grounded.
avoided by me just wearing a pair of headphones. I don't know why I didn't think of that. It would seem that during such an age, I was not an Einstein, a Galileo of sorts. But anyways, when I had a tablet, there was no more
Baby
of that.
clown,
I
we're
was able
almost
to watch
done.
YouTube in bed, on the couch, outside, on the toilet. I was able to watch whatever I wanted. So it was at this point that I started watching YouTubers that weren't as family friendly. So I guess creators like PewDiePie
Hey,
could be put in
PewDiePie's
there. There was
still
another
mostly
smaller
family
creator that you
friendly.
may know of. His intro would go something like, "Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier. and
Welcome to Five
Yeah.
Nights at Freddy's, an indie horror game that you guys suggested en
I was a
masse, and I saw
Markiplier
that
fan.
young
That was sort
I
of a
guess I
skit,
am.
but I feel like before I continue, I need to make it clear how much Markiplier shaped, you know, just the gaming community. Dude,
That's
not even just the
true.
gaming
That's
community, just like
daddy.
people as a whole. Watching his Five Nights at
That's
Freddy's
daddy.
videos was something I was always super excited to do. Sometimes when I edit, I still play it in the background on my TV. But yeah, shout out Markiplier.
I've
You
never
cool
played
ass
Five Nights at
dude.
Freddy's, but I've
Eventually, I
watched
would
all of
discover
his
more niche
playthroughs.
creators. I guess that would be the term. Some of these being the odd ones out, Jaded Animations, who were actually really big inspirations of mine.
love Jaded
Same with people like
Animations.
Pyrocynical, Memulus. Does anyone remember Memulus? But
I
then
remember
I unlocked
Memulus.
a depth of YouTube, something deep down below in the caverns
Oh,
of this
no.
website. I discovered Filthy Frank. By this
Oh,
point, I'm around 10,
no.
11, maybe even 12 years old, and edgy humor was a really big thing on YouTube. But these guys,
Yeah.
bro, they took it to a whole different level. It wasn't just Filthy Frank. There was Max Mofo, Anything for Views, iDubbbz, How To Basic. These guys were just... Bro, they were like anomalies to the human species. It was
Yeah.
insane the things that they would do. Gee, look at these three fine gentlemen. I
clown.
feel like they make an amazing cake. Now, all of their content kind of differed. Filthy Frank would aim more for commentary style videos, while Max Mofo, he would do
Okay. Chat. Baby clown is running crazy. This video is basically done. Come here. You're gonna sit with me. He's not gonna sit with me. But yeah, like this really summed everything up really like well. We're cooked. Everything's fucked, and I hate it here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic rest of your day.